He cried after every punch, and I, like a fool, wiped his tears instead of my own blood. The first time it happened, I remember apologizing to him. I said I was sorry for making him angry, as if his rage were my fault, as if the red mark on my cheek were something I had asked for. He held me after rocking me gently like a child he had accidentally broken. He said it would never happen again. And I believed him. That belief became my prison. No one tells you how abuse begins. It doesn't come with warning signs and alarms. It slips in quietly, disguised as love, as concern, as protection. Don't wear that. Don't talk to him. Stay home today, I miss you. And then one day, it's a raised hand, then another, then the apologies. Always the apologies. From the outside, our house looked like every other house on the street. Tidy garden, good schools, polite holiday cards. No one knew that I slept in fear, that I walked on eggshells memorizing his moods like weather forecasts, that I coached my children on what not to say, so Daddy wouldn't get upset. But silence became the most dangerous part of all, because silence made it seem like nothing was wrong. And silence is easy to ignore. I'm not here to ask for pity. I'm telling this story because the day my daughter saw me bleed, really saw me, she didn't cry. She stared at him. And then she stared at me. And in that stare, I saw what I had become. And I knew. If I didn't leave, I would lose more than my body. I would lose her. My name is Elena Vargas. I'm 41 years old. And for most of my adult life, I believed being a good wife meant knowing when to keep quiet. I grew up in a small town outside Valencia, raised by a mother who worked nights at a bakery, and a father who fixed cars by day and drank cheap whiskey by dusk. Life was loud, chaotic, and often unfair, but it was honest. That's what I wanted for myself, a life that didn't hide behind closed doors. I studied literature at university, always drawn to the quiet strength of women in stories, women who endured, who loved fiercely, who held families together, even when everything else fell apart. I thought that strength would protect me. I thought I would know better. I met Marco when I was 25. He was tall, magnetic, worked in logistics with a solid career. He had this way of making you feel seen, really seen. We met at a friend's birthday dinner and talked until 3 a.m. about books, films, our shared hatred of olives. He made me laugh. He made me feel like the world wasn't so heavy. We got married a year later. In the beginning, he was attentive, even sweet. He'd bring me coffee in bed, leave handwritten notes on the fridge, and call me Mirena. We traveled, made love with the urgency of youth, and talked about the kind of parents we wanted to be. When I got pregnant with our daughter Sophia, we cried together. It felt like the beginning of everything good. I had a teaching position at a local school. Literature, of course. But after Sophia was born, Marco asked me to stay home just for a year. He said until she starts walking. He was persuasive, and I was exhausted. I told myself it was temporary. It wasn't. 1 year became 5, and then came our second child, Matthias. I never returned to work. Marco said my place was at home, that he earned enough for both of us, that no one could raise our children better than their mother. And at first, that felt like love, like protection, like devotion. But slowly, something in his words changed. He began to make small jokes about my little teaching job, as if it were a hobby. He criticized my cooking in front of the kids. He laughed at how much weight I had gained after pregnancy. Each comment was delivered with a smile, followed by a kiss on the forehead, as if affection could erase humiliation. Then came the rules. He didn't like me wearing makeup to the supermarket, said it was for him, not for strangers. He didn't want me seeing my old college friends. They're single and bitter, mi amor. They'll poison your mind. He started going through my phone, checking my messages, questioning my every move. At first, I defended him to everyone, even to myself. He's just protective, I'd say. He's under a lot of stress. I thought if I loved him better, he would soften again. But control never softens. It hardens. It wraps itself around you slowly, like ivy around an old stone house, until one day there's no light left. I stopped calling my sister. I missed my best friend's wedding. I avoided mirrors. I was becoming a ghost in my own home, cooking, cleaning, parenting, pleasing, but never being. The first time he hit me, it wasn't even out of anger. It was exhaustion, he said. He'd been drinking. The kids had been loud. I'd forgotten to buy something he asked for. His open hand met my cheek in the middle of the kitchen. I stumbled but didn't fall. And then he cried. That part I remember more than the strike. He fell to his knees, grabbed my waist, and sobbed like a broken child. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. I held him. God help me, I held him. Because I thought that if someone regrets hurting you, maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe it was a mistake. And if it was a mistake, I could fix it. I was always the fixer. He bought me a necklace the next day. Sophia asked if it was for my birthday. I said yes, even though my birthday had passed weeks before. The second time came months later. Another slap followed by the same script. Crying, apologies, gifts, and always the promise, never again. But never again became a lie I wore like perfume. Every bruise came with a justification. Every silence a compromise. I wore sunglasses indoors. I blamed clumsiness. I said the table corner got me, the cupboard door, the stairs, but the real damage wasn't on my face. It was inside me. It was the way I stopped speaking in full sentences, the way I checked the clock every time he was late, the way I coached my children not to make too much noise, the way I stopped reading poetry because the words made me feel too much. People saw us in the park holding hands. They saw him kiss my temple. They saw our happy family photos on social media. No one saw how tightly I clenched my fists when he touched me. No one heard how many times I cried without making a sound. I told myself I was staying for the kids, that I could endure it, that if I just kept the peace, things would get better. But nothing gets better when you're the only one trying. And the woman I used to be bright, opinionated, alive had disappeared somewhere between his fists and my forgiveness. The violence didn't erupt like a thunderstorm. It crept in like fog, dense, suffocating, and so quiet I didn't notice until I was already choking. After the second slap, there was a long pause. Weeks passed. He was tender again, attentive. He made breakfast, took the kids to school, kissed me in front of strangers. For a moment, I thought maybe that was it, that we had survived whatever darkness had come over him. I let myself hope. I even let myself laugh again. And then he broke my phone. It was over something trivial, a missed call. I'd gone to pick Sophia up from ballet and left my phone charging. When I returned, I found him in the living room holding the device like it was evidence. He demanded to know who I was talking to, why I didn't answer. I explained calmly, gently. He didn't listen. He threw it at the wall. It exploded in pieces like a final punctuation mark in a sentence I wasn't even allowed to write. I stood frozen. My daughter was watching from the hallway. He didn't notice her, but I did. that was the moment something inside me began to shift. Not enough to leave, not yet, but enough to start keeping track. I began hiding copies of medical records, took photographs of bruises, saved voice memos of drunken arguments. I didn't know what I was collecting proof for. I only knew that one day I might need the truth to fight back. Because the truth was this: the beatings were becoming more frequent. Not every day, but often enough that I couldn't pretend anymore. He'd punch the wall next to my head, grab my wrist hard enough to bruise, yell until my ears rang, and always, always he would cry afterward. Some nights after the children were asleep, he would collapse into my lap and weep. Say he was sick. Say he needed help. Say I was the only person who ever really loved him. And I held him, because somewhere deep down, I was still clinging to the man I'd married, the man who quoted Neruda, the man who named our daughter after his favorite aunt. I wanted to believe that he was still in there, buried under years of stress, alcohol, and unspoken grief. But each time I forgave him, I felt myself vanish just a little more. He started locking the bathroom door when I was in the shower. He started checking my messages when I was asleep. He accused me of infidelity when I smiled too long at the cashier. He made me feel like dirt, and then kissed me on the forehead before bed. It was a kind of madness, a cycle that kept spinning, pulling me under. I lived in a state of permanent anxiety. My body never relaxed. My mind never stopped calculating escape routes, explanations, apologies. And the worst part was, I got good at hiding it, even from myself. The children, though, they began to see. Sophia stopped drawing pictures of our family. She started drawing houses without windows, people without faces. Matthias flinched whenever someone raised their voice, even if it was on television. One evening, I caught Sophia standing outside the bedroom door, her ear pressed to the wood. She didn't say anything when I found her, just stared at me with eyes too old for 10 years. I pulled her into bed with me that night, but she didn't sleep. She just laid there, her little back pressed against mine, silent and stiff. They knew, and yet every morning I still made breakfast. I still folded his shirts. I still smiled at school drop-off and laughed at the neighbors' jokes, because pretending was safer than confronting, safer than waking the beast. Until the day he raised his hand in front of the children. It wasn't a slap. It wasn't even a punch. It was the way he screamed my name across the hallway, stormed into the kitchen, and shoved a plate off the counter with such force it shattered against the floor, the shards spraying across Matthias's bare feet. Sophia screamed. Not a child's scream, but something primal. A sound that tore through the house. Like fire, she grabbed her brother and ran into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I stood there paralyzed, staring at the blood on the tiles. And Marco, he just stared at his hands, stunned like he didn't recognize them. Then, as always, he cried. "I didn't mean to," he whispered. But this time I didn't reach for him. This time I didn't say it was okay. I told him to leave. He didn't. He laughed. "What are you going to do, Elena?" he said. "Call the police. Tell them I broke a plate." And that's when I realized he truly believed there was no proof, no witness, no consequence. And he was almost right. Except this time. I wasn't alone. 2 children had seen everything. 2 hearts had begun to fracture. And something inside me, the last piece of whatever self I had left, hardened. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just began to plan. Because if he was going to shatter my world, then I would at least choose where the pieces landed. There were no fireworks after he left. No parade, no applause, just silence. But this time, the silence wasn't a threat. It was peace. At first, it was unnerving. I had grown so used to fear, to the weight of his moods pressing against the walls of our home, that quiet felt unnatural. I would still catch myself listening for the sound of his footsteps, holding my breath when keys jangled. Trauma teaches the body how to anticipate danger, even when it's gone. But slowly, the tension began to fade. Sophia started humming again while brushing her teeth. Matthias slept through the night without wetting the bed. The television played louder than before. The curtains stayed open. The windows let the light in. I even bought flowers, not to apologize or to cover up anything, just because they were beautiful. There were moments of guilt, of course. That's something no one talks about enough, the guilt after leaving. Guilt that I stayed so long. Guilt that my children had to witness the worst parts of us. Guilt for ever loving him. Guilt for still remembering his softer days. But healing is not linear. Some days I forgave myself. Other days, I had to remind myself why I left. I kept the court documents in a drawer, not to hold on to pain, but to remind myself that it happened, that it was real, and that walking away wasn't weakness. It was the bravest thing I'd ever done. I never wanted revenge. I didn't need to watch him fall. Watching him disappear from our lives was enough. Watching Sophia draw pictures again this time, of families with sunlight and laughter. Watching Matthias hold my hand without fear. Watching myself laugh at the sound of my own voice. That was enough. People sometimes ask if I still think about him. I do. Not as a man. Not as a husband. But as a shadow that used to live inside me, the voice that whispered I wasn't enough, that I couldn't leave, that love meant enduring pain. That voice is gone now, and in its place is something quiet and powerful. There's a particular morning I remember months later. I was sipping tea by the window. The kids were still asleep. A breeze moved through the kitchen, soft and honest, and I realized I hadn't thought of him all week. Not even once. That's what freedom feels like. Not loud, not dramatic, just stillness. If you're listening to this and feel trapped in someone else's story, please hear me. You are not what they've made you believe. You can leave. You can rebuild. You can become the version of yourself they tried to erase. And one day, like me, you'll sit in a quiet room and smile, not because everything is perfect, but because the war is finally over. She believed every apology, every tear, every promise that it won't happen again. But what he broke wasn't just plates or skin or silence. He broke the woman who once believed love could fix everything, until one day she stood up, not with shouting, not with revenge, but with clarity. And from that silence, she rebuilt everything. If you've ever loved someone who hurt you, if you've ever stayed when you should have run, if you've ever believed that pain was your price for love, then this story is for you. If it moved you, if it made you feel seen, please like this video, leave a comment, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your voice helps others find theirs, and your click could be the beginning of someone else's escape. You are not alone, and you are not powerless. Let's make sure no one else stays silent.